Good evening. Before we start this evening's meeting, I would like for us, please, to rise and take a moment of silence for our friend Chris Johnson, who is the deceased journalist from Connect Bridgeport that covered a lot of our meetings. So if you would just, with me, just take a moment in his honor. Thank you. As soon as I find the agenda, I'll call the meeting to order. So I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. The 13th of October, 2025. Madam Clerk, if you would call roll.
Mayor Robert McKee.
Present.
Reporter Hank Murray.
Here.
Counselor Don Burton.
Here.
Counselor Jason Campbell.
Here.
Counselor Clayton Rice.
Here.
Counselor Jacqueline Lominger.
Here.
Counselor Chris Kinney.
Here. Thank you. This evening's invocation will be by Councilman Jason Campbell. If you would all rise, please.
Let's pray. Oh, wait.
You want me to pray?
Yeah.
Perfect timing. Pastor Matthew Paul from the Bridgeport United Methodist Church.
That's what happens when you're running a little close
Thank
from
you, Pastor.
Morgantown. Sorry about that. Let us pray. Almighty God, our hearts are filled with gratitude and laughter tonight as we remember your countless blessings. We thank you that you have created us in your image and that you have called us to live in community with one another. We give you thanks for the city of Bridgeport, for our elected officials, for our businesses, for our churches, for our families, for all who make this a place where we live, work, and play together. And we're grateful for the opportunity to gather here. As we meet, Lord, grant our mayor and council members wisdom and clarity. Give them courage to do what is right and good and true. Stir in them a thirst for justice and righteousness, and help them to discern what serves the common good and what is in the best interest of all our citizens. May they listen when it's time to listen and speak when it's time to speak. Bless them with patience and respect and a spirit of cooperation. We pray all these things in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. Councilman Campbell, if you would lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, item 5 is approval of minutes from the September 22nd special city council meeting and the September 22nd regular city council meeting. Is there any action on that?
So moved as read, please. Second?
Motion second on the floor. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Item 6, public comments. Madam Clerk, is there anybody signed up to speak?
Yeah, Mr. Mark Delana with Charleston.
Mr. Lane, if you would come up to the podium and state your name for the record, please.
My name is Mark Delana, and I'll try to be brief here. Good evening to everyone. I just want to make a few comments about Charles Point and the city of Bridgeport. Years ago, I stood at this same podium in front of a prior city council where I stated the following when we reached a point of an issue. I said, we at Charles Point never set out to fight City Hall, but it was apparent that City Hall set out to fight Charles Point. There were many attempts to resolve the issue back at that time, but the statute of limitations was running out, and we had no other recourse but to file suit. After months and months in court time and lots of wasted time and lots of wasted money on both sides, it was resolved, and it was not in the city's favor. Now, I applaud the new council because many of the members have reached out to us to come up to our office on this current issue to get a better understanding for what is going on. And they have spent their time to try to understand the issues that we now face. But yet again, we're here, we find ourselves in the same situation. So I ask this council, do we want to go down this path again? And better yet, I need you to think, what if you are wrong again? Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, any other signed up for public comments? Okay, item 7, report by the mayor. Two brief topics. Fire Chief Phil Hart, who has announced his retirement, will be the honoree of a retirement celebration on the 28th at 1 o'clock at the downtown fire station 51, and he wanted me to make sure that everybody knew that they were invited to attend, and we look forward to celebrating Chief Hart. Number 2 is I just wanted to remind council, some of you have replied to the city clerk. She's keeping a list of potential persons to set on a charter review committee if that's the direction that we decide to go. So if you get a chance and want to submit a couple names to her and let her know if if you yourself would want to set on that, then she'll compile a list and then we can decide what to do with it at a later date. That's all that I have under Mayor's report. Report of interim city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. As always, I have the report set out for all the council members. But as you can see, lots of exciting things going on and lots of great things from our staff happening in the city. The Bridgeport Library, they held a trunk or treat Saturday with support from local organizations and 2 city departments and handed out candy to the participants there. The Bridgeport readers have read enough minutes to donate 26 flocks of chickens in their Read to Feed challenge so far that I reported on a few weeks ago. On October 20th, Cultural Connections will be discussing and sampling candy from around the world at the library. The Bridge Sports Complex, Friday night they had their Zombie Night Crawl 5K and they had over 100 participants in that event. They hosted a charity basketball tournament featuring Bridgeport Police Department, Bridgeport Fire Department, and Harrison County EMS. Due to the last-minute relocation of the FBI Jerry Dove 5K, Due to the government shutdown, where they shut the facility down to the public, we moved it over to the bridge, and everybody pulled together at the last minute to make that happen. And we also hosted a swim meet this weekend that went really well. Community development, so far this year, 773 permits for a total of $82.3 million in construction. UHC is doing an interior renovation of exam rooms, x-ray rooms, for a total of about $750,000. And we had Shred Day on October the 4th, and many residents participated and thanked us for providing that service. Emergency management, Director Curry notified us that he was awarded a $15,000 grant from the Intero Foundation that will help with the purchase of our Bearcat. The fire department, we had 25 firefighters took an advanced class on new technology and different uses of thermal imaging cameras. The class was taught at Company 51 by instructors from 4 different states. The second firefighter that attended and completed the paramedic classes last year successfully passed all of his testing, and both of those students are certified and approved. Parks and Recreation, we will be paving the expanded parking area at the Deegan Lake pickleball courts tomorrow, and striping will follow. We are working right now with the ag education teacher at Bridgeport High School. Their students did a program where they constructed bat and owl boxes, and we will be installing those in the park system around the city. The Deegan Lake tennis court lights, the new lights will be delivered Thursday, and just like the public to know that we will have one lane shut down out there near the lakes from about 9 to 10 o'clock, and we just ask everybody to slow down. The police department, the new training facility is nearly complete. The contractor did excellent work, and they're really close to finishing that up. Public Works has played a key role in preparing that facility and showing the skill that they have. They've had the electric service, they've installed all the conduit, the connections, they did the concrete floor, and they have it all ready for the power to be hooked up by the power company. Chief Rogers also reported that the entire department recently completed an advanced handgun training course led by our own instructors here. So Sergeants Brett Stewart, Dave Jansen, and Chris Bartow all did an outstanding job of teaching that class to our officers. We're also proud to announce that Bridgeport has been selected to host the 2026 West Virginia Chiefs of Police Association Annual Conference. We've held that previously in 2015 and 2019. Chief Rogers told me they won't know the date until the WVU football schedule comes out. But also that they've done such a great job of hosting it in the past that he was kind of strong-armed into hosting it because we've done such a great job. Public Works continues to be very busy. They've helped us with the preparing the pad for the restrooms that are going to go at the pickleball court that should arrive around the end of October, 1st of November, along with the restroom for the inclusive playground at the bridge. We installed a new electric service down here at 240 West Main Street that powers some of the Main Street lighting. It was mounted to a building and was causing some issues, so we relocated that. And they've also been working with Frontier and Spectrum up at the intersection of Worthington, right there above Simpson Elementary School, where we did the new wall and all the new services up there. So they're getting that finished up so we can move all the lines to the new poles and open those sidewalks up completely. Let's see, we'll have a concrete street pre-bid meeting on October 14th, and those bids will be opened on November the 5th here at City Hall. And the paving project that we recently awarded was completed with 9 streets resurfaced and reinstalled speed humps and striping. The new water lines at the Mon General site were installed, tested, and are now in service. And unfortunately, they've started getting their spreaders and plows ready for the winter. So That's not a great report there. Just a few general notes. Last Friday, we hosted a class of the Leadership Harrison program, which I'm participating in and find very fascinating. We had 22 business professionals that were here to learn about the leadership in government and how local government operates. The day ended with the class participating in a mock city council meeting, and everybody had a great time, and it was a lot of fun and learning how the city and local government operates. Thrasher is currently reviewing the conditions of sewer lines, culverts, and the streams around the James Street area where we've been having some issues, and they will be making recommendations for improvements, and we're getting closer to those improvements that we should be able to get something started hopefully later this year, or early spring. As the mayor mentioned, with Chief Hart announcing his retirement, we are going to be completing some internal interviews for that position this week. So we'd like to move on that pretty quickly. Also, something that's not on your list here, we had another accident today involving a child on an e-bike that resulted down at City Park with a broken bone. Chief Rogers and I were down there, so we're going to step up our efforts here. We've had a lot of discussion about this recently, but, me talking to the parks folks around the state and Mark talking at his chief of police conference this last weekend, everybody's having these issues. And just like us, everybody's ordinance mirrors the state law, which hasn't caught up to e-bikes yet. So some of the things that we're going to be doing, I know Mark's been working on this, and we're going to probably ramp this up since this is our second major incident here in the last month or so, is to try to do some education and try to get some parents and with their children involved. A lot of the problems we're seeing are kids are on these basically motorized vehicles that do not understand the rules of the road. So they're operating almost as you would a motorcycle, but they have no training, no skills, and causing a lot of issues with on sidewalks and roads and trails and everything else. So we're actively looking into that, but it's one of those problems where there's not a quick Band-Aid solution for it. So that's all I have today.
Thank you, Manager. Okay, next item is item 9, words and presentation. 9.1, we will be issuing a proclamation to the Trinity Community Building celebrating 100 years. So if there's anybody here to receive that proclamation, if you would meet me at the front, and we'll get that taken care of. Oh, that's a crew.
Takes a village.
You guys do great things. Good, guys. Well, I might need you to help me read this, because the clerk has instructed me that it's 2 pages. You guys do such great work. It's 2 pages long. And I'll try to use my big voice. Okay, hold this out here for me. We'll do our best here.
How far you can
Okay,
hold it?
that about like that.
Okay,
Yes,
gotcha.
thank you. This is wonderful, and it's an honor to present this proclamation this evening on behalf of the entire council and myself. Whereas the Trinity Community Building, located in the Brushy Fork area of Bridgeport, West Virginia, stands as a proud symbol of community spirit, service, and fellowship for the past century. And whereas the building traces its roots to the early 1920s, when the Trinity Farm Women's Club, founded by Miss John G. Lang in February of 1925, began meeting to share knowledge, strengthen families, and serve their neighbors. And whereas, under the leadership of women such as Miss Lang, who served as county president in 1928 and state president in 1933 to 1935, and county extension agent Miss Mabel Hiller, who served from 1925 to to 1965, the organization helps promote education, fellowship, and community improvement throughout Harrison County. And whereas the members of the club, known as the Trinity CEOs, Community Educational Outreach Services, have faithfully maintained and used the Trinity Community Building as a place for meetings, dinners, workshops, fundraisers, and countless community events for generations. And whereas over the past 100 years, the Trinity Community Building has served as the heart of Brushy Fork community, hosting gatherings such as annual picnic, hot dog sale, fundraiser, educational programs that have fostered a deep sense of belonging and civic pride. And whereas the women of the Trinity CEOs have contributed thousands of volunteer hours towards maintaining and repairing the building, ensuring it remains a welcome place for all who enter, and continuing the traditions of service, fellowship, and education began a century ago. And whereas this milestone celebrates not only a structure of wood and stone, but the generations of individuals whose dedication and hard work have made it a cornerstone of the community's life in Bridgeport. And whereas the city of Bridgeport recognizes and honors the Trinity CEOs and all those who have sustained the Trinity Community Building for 100 years of continuous service to the people of Brushy Fork and surrounding areas. Now therefore, I, Robert Matheny, Mayor of the City of Bridgeport, do hereby proclaim October 13, 2025 as Trinity Community Building Celebration Day in the City of Bridgeport, West Virginia, in recognition of 100 years of history, fellowship, and community service through the Trinity Community Building and the generations of women who kept its legacy alive. In witness thereof, I have unto set my hand and caused the great seal of the City of Bridgeport to be affixed to this, the 13th day of October 2025, and it's signed by myself, the mayor, and attested by the city clerk, Lauren Rogers.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. I'm not sure who gets this, but you might have to get a couple frames and put it in at the building. But thank you, guys, and we got to squeeze together. And I love that hot dog sale.
Saturday.
Is it Saturday? Second to the auction.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yes,
Appreciate it.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you,
seeing you.
guys.
Take care.
Yes.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you,
Thank
Joe.
you, guys.
Okay.
Thanks, Jason, for wearing this coat. Thank you. Because I'm doing the prestige of tonight.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
My wife dresses me.
Okay, the next group, it would be for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. My friends from Hope. This is not as much reading, thank goodness.
Yeah,
But
ours
I
is
think
a
we got it on one sheet of paper, so I'll try to do a little better. But thank you guys for coming this evening. And again, on behalf of the entire council, myself, it's our honor to give this proclamation. Whereas the problem of domestic violence are not confined to any group or groups of people, but cross all economic, racial, gender, educational, religious, and social barriers, and are sustained by society's indifferences. Whereas the crime of domestic violence violates an individual's privacy, dignity, security, humanity, due to the systematic use of physical, emotional, sexual, psychological, and economical control and abuse. Whereas when a family member is abused, it can have a long-term damaging effect on the victim that also leaves a mark on a family, friends, and the community at large. Whereas victims should have help to find compassion, comfort, and healing they need, and abusers should be punished to the full extent of the law. Whereas important partnerships have been formed among Hope Incorporated and other allied professionals to assist victims of domestic violence. Whereas we encourage domestic violence victims and their families to seek assistance from appropriate victim services organizations such as Hope Incorporated. Whereas the City of Bridgeport has a moral obligation to work to prevent domestic violence, address its brutal and destructive effects, and to make ending domestic violence a local priority. Now, therefore, I, Robert Matheny, Mayor of the City of Bridgeport, do hereby proclaim October 2025 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Bridgeport. We applaud the efforts of many victim services providers such as Hope Incorporated, our Bridgeport Police Department, the Harrison County Prosecutor's Office, national, state, and community organizations, and private sector supporters for their efforts in promoting awareness about domestic violence. In witness thereof, I hereunto set my hand and caused the great seal of the City of Bridgeport to be affixed this 13th day of October 2025, and it's signed by myself and attested to by our City Clerk, Lauren Rogers. Thank you for the work that you do and your service to the community.
Sure. Oh, is that?
Yeah.
Oh, I was just.
You
gonna
want to say something before we get a
Yes,
a photo?
that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was just going to say thank you for your support. And if you happen to know anyone that would need our services, please send them to us. We are located in the Board of Education building in Clarksburg. And Thursday, the 16th, is Wear Purple Day. And that just shows your support for survivors. And we also have some ribbons if you would like any, if anyone would like any, we can give those to you.
Yeah, I'm
so
sure
you
that
can,
the council, if you
yeah,
want to pass
for
them
your
out
support.
across there,
We
Amber.
actually have some like enamel ribbons this year.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow, getting fancy,
We're
right?
fancy.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
We
Yes.
certainly do appreciate the work that you do.
we appreciate you guys
Yeah,
so much.
We know firsthand of the work, and Chief, the same with the police
Yes, we were
department.
talking. We appreciate it.
They resupply them.
Got you
Yes.
covered, huh?
And sometimes if, you're not sure of something, always reach out to us if you have any questions. We'll be happy to answer.
And then I can leave some of the extras,
Absolutely.
with
We just
Lauren
leave-
or
yeah.
whoever. Mhm. You're next.
I'm
technically.
next?
Yeah.
Thank you, I'll put that on. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Oh, sorry.
You're welcome.
Can we come? Oh.
It's all right, buddy. It's all about Jeff. It's all about Jeff.
It's the only place.
Yeah. Yeah. Take it while you can, right?
Sure, thank you.
Have one of each of you.
Hey, Dean, you can only have one. You can only have one. Here, you wanna get over here? We'll-
Amber, I think they want a picture.
Jeff wants a picture.
No.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm told that there are some possibilities that we're going to see some remote mics for those type of presentations. I'm not sure, but that would relieve you guys of that extra responsibility that you have there. All right, moving on to the next agenda item. If it pleases the council and there's no objections to it, I'd like to move item 12 and 12.1 up to the next item agenda. Any objections to that? No. Okay. Manager, is Tim going to report on this, or did you want to speak to it?
Tim can speak on it if you go ahead and
Read it? Okay. Item 12.1, consider an act on approving a contract with Olson Group Ltd. of Alexandria, Virginia to update the city's emergency operation plan, the EOP. Director Curry, when you get a chance, if you wouldn't mind going to the podium and bring the council up to speed on that item, please.
So this is a project that we do every couple years. The guidelines put out by FEMA for emergency operations plans say you're supposed to update them every 2 to 3 years, so we're due for that. We put it out to bid on a national level. We got many responses, had over 15, narrowed it down to 4 to interview. Joe helped me interview, Mark, Phil, several of us interviewed several different companies, including one that has always done our work, and then this Olson Group was the one that impressed us the most. They bring a lot of national reputation and skill to the table. They had a very competitive price and a very competitive timeline, getting it done in like 4 months, where a lot of the others were 10 to 18 months. So it's budgeted, so there's no budget impact. If you guys approve it, I'll sign it. We'll be good. Happy to take any questions about it.
Okay, any questions for Director Curry? Okay, any actions by council? Motion to approve item 12.1. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion among council? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Ayes have it, motion carried. Thank you, Director.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, next is a report by Tim Miller from Babs Callen, updating the council. This stems back to a meeting I think we had 2 months ago where the council had asked that we get an update, and the managers reached out to Mr. Miller to kind of give us an update on the 2 cases. So, Mr. Miller, if you'd want to move to the podium, please, and tell us your name for the record. And,
Sure. My name's Tim Miller. I'm with the Charleston, West Virginia firm Babs Callen. I've been retained on behalf of the city for purposes of issues related to the TIF bond and the request for the extension of that by 15 years.
Okay. Any questions from council for Mr. Miller, or any actions by council?
Is he gonna give a report?
It's up to you guys. I mean, do you have any recommendations or?
Well, I'm happy to give you a status report. If you want any analysis regarding opinions, recommendations that constitute legal advice, my only concern would be, to the extent I do that in public, I could potentially be waiving certain privileges that exist with respect to that, and would suggest executive session for any discussions like that. As far as status goes, that's public record. I'm happy to do that, Mr. Mayor, right now, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, Mr. Miller, if you wouldn't mind, if you could just give us a brief overview, and we certainly understand that, and we know, at some point that our conversation may have to move into executive session. Right. Thank you.
As far as updates, there's 2 cases that are pending in courts. A first case was filed by Genesis Partners against the city in federal court, pending in Clarksburg. The second case is one that we later filed in the Circuit of Kanawha County against the West Virginia Department of Economic Development. The issue of this case, obviously, is the extension request by Charles Point for the TIF bonds to be extended from 30 years to 45 years, pursuant to amendments made by the legislature in 2023, which allow that in certain cases. The council previously engaged us for purposes of analyzing this preliminarily. We provided certainly preliminary analysis on the legal issues and provided that to the city through the city attorney's office regarding whether we felt there was a claim the city may have in that regard. We offered certain opinions in that regard and recommendations at that time, and gave a proposed budget as well prior to having a formal engagement letter entered with our firm. We did that, and then we had further meetings with the city attorney, the mayor at that time, and the issue was whether to take action affirmatively by the city first to determine whether what these 23 amendments would do was constitutional or not. There's a question of law here about whether these comply with certain laws and constitutions of West Virginia. That issue came up before this council sometime prior to November 18 of 2024. My understanding, I was not present for the meeting, so this this you may want to refer to your city attorneys on this, was the issue was brought up for a vote by the council. Council at that time decided not to move forward with any particular litigation at that time, and the matter, as far as I was told, was tabled. Approximately a month or two later, however, on November 18, 2024, Genesis decided to file suit against the city of Bridgeport, at which point the dynamics changed considerably because now the issue was, the fat was in the fire, so to speak. The issue was brought to fore, and the suit was filed in federal court, naming the city as well as the mayor, Andy Lang, at that time as defendants in the suit. At that point, we were obviously asked to be engaged as well to defend the interests of the city and Mayor Lang in that litigation. And in the process of doing that, we revisited the issue which we had previously addressed with the council regarding the merits of a suit to determine the constitutionality of that to be filed against the West Virginia Office of Economic Development. They are a party because under the statute that applies, no TIF bonds may be issued, nor may any extensions be granted unless it is approved by the West Virginia Office of Economic Development. So the issue was a state agency at this point. The question was whether they were acting within their legal authority or acting constitutionally. So that was the issue which we wanted to bring to the fore. And as a result, accordingly, a decision was made that we would go forward to file our own suit against the Economic Development Authority for purposes of getting a determination by our state Supreme Court ultimately on this issue, because it is a case of first impression. By that I mean there is no case law to guide the analysis here. The 2023 amendments are something completely different and new, and there was really no legal precedent to guide to say whether this was legal or constitutional or not. So the case was filed as a declaratory judgment. It wasn't a suit for money damages or anything like that. It was a suit just merely asking, we would like a court to rule on this as a matter of law, so give us guidance as to what can and cannot be done with respect to these TIF bonds and their extension. That suit was filed in Kanawha County because that's where the state agencies are deemed to be located and doing business, and suits brought there have to first be given 30-day notice to the Attorney General of West Virginia that you're contemplating a suit, which we did, and then a suit can only be brought thereafter, and that's the case. So those are the two cases pending in the court. One we're defending because we were sued, and the others we brought a separate action for purpose to get our own declaration on some legal issues that were not raised in the federal case filed by Genesis. So the update on the federal case is both these cases have been moving on a relatively, for the law, legal cases, relatively fast-tracked. We agreed in the federal case not to do formal discovery by that depositions, document and data exchanges for purpose of trying to expedite and get the question answered for the guidance of both Charles Point and the city. So the case was filed. We filed a motion to dismiss the case in federal court because it was based on the U.S. federal Constitution and the state Constitution, whereas the city, our interest wasn't litigating federal constitutional issues. It was West Virginia constitutional, West Virginia law is what we were only interested in pursuing, thus our case filed in Kanawha County. So the case motion to dismiss we filed was on the basis that federal court shouldn't be in federal court. We weren't raising a federal issue. Judge Cleed determined that he would deny the motion to dismiss. That order was entered recently, about a month ago, September 16th. So the case is proceeding along with the scheduling order entered by the court. As I indicated, it's fairly expedited schedule. So October 24th, we have certain filings, exhibits, list of witnesses and things we have to provide to the court. Then there is a pretrial conference between all counsel and Judge Clee, as well as a final settlement conference, which the judge, these are his orders of schedule, ordering us to appear for purposes of settlement conference and a final pretrial conference on December 1, and trial scheduled as a bench trial. In other words, no jury. Judge Clee will decide the case, scheduled for trial on December 15th of this year. On the state case, the Economic Development Authority in turn moved to dismiss the claim and issues raised by the city, arguing that the city had no standing to bring any claim. The city had no rights, had no constitutional right to argue that any contract or any rights attributed to the city because we only had such power as the state had granted to us. We have limited jurisdiction. City council, as you well know, the state has the ultimate authority and power and has devised certain powers and authorities to cities, municipalities throughout the state. The Economic Development Authority, as a legal defense, argued we did not have any standing or basis to challenge anything to do with the TIF statute, and also that there was no basis for any of the constitutional claims we raised. They acted to dismiss all of the claims we raised. That case was heard before Judge Richard Lindsay in Kanawha County. We had a lengthy hearing before him on the motion to dismiss. After hearing that, he ruled from the bench denying the Economic Development Authority's request to dismiss our case, and held in essence that we had sufficiently stated a cause of action, that he believed we had legal grounds for the cause of action, and accordingly the case would proceed. He did offer at the end of that, he recognized that both sides need a ruling to provide guidance to everyone. He said he would be willing to expedite his proceeding and proceed immediately to trial as soon as reasonably possible for purposes of getting a ruling, so that, as he said, I'm assuming whoever the losing party is, they're going to want to appeal it up to the Supreme Court to get a ruling. So he was very accommodating to say, I'll make my ruling. He hasn't made a definitive ruling yet. But once I do, then obviously whoever may be the losing party, if they choose, could at that point appeal it for further guidance. So that hearing was held, and on July 22, the court ruled in our favor, denying the motion to dismiss the city's case. We're in the process of entering a scheduling order to get this case forward to trial. The present proposed scheduling order would have us doing some discovery. They sent us discovery requests for documents. City clerk has been diligently working, gathering documents to provide, which we have provided today, responded to discovery requests, provided voluminous documents going back to 2004, 2005. It was quite a bit of resurrecting old history to explain what happened, what documents exist to show whether there was an agreement, and if, in essence, was there some kind of contract that entitled the city to A, have consent to any extensions or not, and what the impact would be on the city. So we're in the process of entering the scheduler. We don't have it entered yet, but I have spoken with the counsel for the Economic Development Authority, who they retained an attorney from the Bowles-Rice law firm in Charleston, and we have tentatively agreed to a schedule that would hopefully get this case to trial as well, if necessary, in December and or January, February of this coming period. So we're in the process of trying to move the case forwards as quickly as we can to try to get resolution. We've expended significant time and effort on the front end because it's such a novel issue, doing all the research and analysis to determine what legal arguments there may be that we have would be viable, which ones we could assert. So we've kind of already slogged through the hard work, and now we just need to get to the point of getting a decision from the court. So that's where we are right now. So that status report, if you wanted commentary on opinions, recommendations, and things like that, and if we want me to answer questions about legal strategy and issues that would likely be considered privileged and confidential, I would suggest we move to executive session.
Yes. Thank you. If there's nothing from the council on the report, I would recommend that we.
Well, I'd like to ask a question.
Go ahead.
I think could be answered here. Just so everybody can know, what would the timing look like? So for the federal trial, we start in December. How long would that trial probably take?
1 day. We budgeted 2 days.
Okay.
I think it's possible it might be a 1-day trial.
And then the appeals process, what would that look like, assuming that happened?
If you appeal to judgment in federal district court, you have to file your notice within 30 days. The Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals in Richmond has jurisdiction. They docket that, usually case within 30 days. And then they issue a briefing schedule. The parties can request an expedited briefing schedule as well. And so likely, though, given their docket, you're looking at 3 months, 4 months before you would probably get the matter briefed on an expedited basis. So you're probably, at best, looking for 6 months before they would hear the case.
So mid-26 or so.
That would, I think, be on the expedited schedule, yeah. Their docket's pretty heavy, as you can imagine.
So that's the best case scenario.
I think likely so, but again, I think both parties would agree to expedite it. If somebody opposes it, then they'll put it on a regular, slower docket. But in this case, we've worked with counsel, and I think both sides want an expedited schedule. So I think that was likely my best guess on that.
And there's potential for appeal after that even?
Potential to the U.S. Supreme Court, but
unlikely they would take it.
Highly unlikely they would take it.
Okay. So then, same question in the state, sometime between December and February. Again, how long do you expect that trial? Another day long?
It's another day-long, possible 2-day trial. There's a possibility the court, and actually both courts, the federal as well as the state, but possible the court could do what they call a certified question, in which that's a procedure where the court makes its ruling and then says, but I need guidance from the upper court, and you proceed. So probably on the same schedule, you're looking at something like mid-2026 before you could possibly have a case up there and docketed and filed. The state Supreme Court's procedure on expedited, they adjourn for the summer, as several courts do. So, you could be possibly into the fall, but I think, again, trying to get it by mid-2026 briefed and filed with the court would be the goal.
So there's no, that new in-between court, this one would go right to Supreme Court?
They could, the Intermediate Court of Appeals could take it, but I think what we've been talking about is trying to find a process to expedite that by potential certified question directly to the Supreme Court. Again, that's at the discretion of the court whether to grant it or not, but
Right.
I think that would be the goal.
So if we were to go to trial on either, I mean, they're basically the same. The outcome we're looking for the federal and
Yes,
the,
they're both declaratory judgment actions. Nobody's asking for money damages against either side.
right. And if we would go to court or have hearings, the 2-day hearings on either one, would that require the whole legal team to participate? Most likely.
I would anticipate I would be lead trial counsel in those cases. I have an associate that's worked with me on the case. He might attend. I don't think it would be necessary that he be participating in the proceeding. That's what I would anticipate.
Okay. Thank you.
And like I say, we've pretty much done all the legwork up to this point, all the legal briefing. We know the issues. We've briefed the law. At this point, it's just creating the record for the appellate court. They need to have the actual documents in the record and hear the testimony of the witnesses about what happened and what documents were relied upon back at the time of the creation of the TIF district and the process back, frankly, from the 2005 period primarily.
So going forward, you feel that you could handle that without the Phil Real team and Carrie Cecil team?
I could. Ms. Cecil, I've not dealt with her. I understand she's bond counsel, so
Yeah.
no, she's had no involvement in the litigation side of this. So,
And I'm just looking
you.
dollars and
Sure.
cents wise because, I'm looking at.
Oh, absolutely. Understood.
A possibility of,
Yeah.
$20,000 a day, if everybody's involved, in the thing. And I think we have a fiduciary responsibility to
Absolutely.
ask those questions. And I know your time's valuable, so.
No, that's quite all right. I mean, we gave an initial budget, and we're within that budget at this point, but except for we had budgeted assuming we were just going to have one case, not be defending a case in federal court. So we've ended up with 2 lawsuits instead of 1. So obviously the work has been increased significantly to deal with the federal procedural issues.
Yeah, because I believe we're up to 164,000 now with both your firm and Phil Real.
I do not know what the real firm's billings are. I don't do any, that's not my side of it. Mine, I did have a sheet here. I think it was up 115.
115 on your side.
Correct. And my budgeted original was 115, but that was for 1 lawsuit, not 2.
Right,
But-
and as we're speaking of that also included Phil Reals, if I'm reading that correctly. And your phase 1, you estimated 50,000.
Yeah.
Not
But
150.
I was litigation counsel. The real firm is primarily, as I understand it, they were lobbying and government affairs individuals working for the city at that time. And there's been very little need for that at this point because we were dealing with the Economic Development Authority as well as other individuals in state government, and their knowledge of the inner workings of state government were helpful to us in that regard.
Good, thank you.
Mr. Miller, question, please.
Yes.
You mentioned the heavy lifting has been done, a lot of the writing, the research, the analysis by paralysis. So, again, as the mayor was talking about dollars and cents matters, and we're just curious from our standpoint, with the heavy lifting being done, I imagine, I don't want to put words in your mouth or paraphrase anything, but seems like the bulk of our expense has been realized as we move forward from this point through the 1 or 2 day bench trials that could occur. Is that a fair statement?
That's a fair statement, yes.
Thank you.
Does that include if it goes to appeal?
That did not include appeal,
Well, I meant the answer to his question.
but, well, again, all the research has been done. It's not going to change anything. It's
Not
all
gonna
going to be the
change
same. I'll have to generate a different format of brief for the appellate court, but essentially, no, it's rehashing the same thing that was at the trial.
So from a practical standpoint, the outcomes of these cases, I don't know the right terminology, but the city's on the losing end of both of them. Then the status would be status quo. As it is now, the TIF's passed, and there'd be a 45-year term on these TIFs. Am I correct? in
That's
saying?
correct.
Okay. So then, opposite side, city were to come out on the winning side of this. What's the practical implication? That extension goes away completely?
No, it does not. The difference between the original law and the 2023 amendments was the original law stated that for any TIF district located in whole or in part within within a municipality, that you could not have a TIF district unless the municipality gave their consent to that, because you were obviously agreeing to forego 30 years worth of tax revenues in exchange for the other economic development positives of any type of TIF district. So in 2023, when the statute was passed, for reasons I don't know, the legislature decided in their wisdom to remove the city's right to consent to a change in the development and the TIF district within your city limits.
Right.
The city had completely annexed, at the original TIF district, you had annexed the entire area of the Charles Point area to be within this TIF district. So obviously your consent was absolutely necessary, and that right was removed in 2023. So in going forward, you would still have the option to consent to the extension of the TIF district.
But, so that process would start over. The original 30-year TIF is a done deal. I mean, there's no
over.
change, there's no impact on this whatsoever. This is purely about the 15-year, right?
Correct.
So if we were to win this, then essentially that approval by the county commission only for a 15-year extension would be null and void. As far as its application, their part of the consent could still stand, but then we would have the option of coming in and deciding whether or not to extend that.
That would be my
That's our expectation.
expectation.
Okay. Would this also affect White Oaks?
I have not been involved in the White Oaks TIF district. I'm not knowledgeable of that and do not know if they've been extended or
Mr.
not.
Ramsey, do you know the answer to that question?
It could, depending upon whether or not we established that there was an agreement that it would be 30 years. Because in this case, we're saying that when in consideration of the city giving its consent, we based that upon it lasting for 30 years. We
Right.
gave that consent in 2005. The initial 30 years runs in 2035.
Right.
So, and when Tim talks about the information that Lauren has been gathering, it's all the information that was presented to council in 2005 to establish whether or not that was a contract that we gave our consent based upon it being 30 years.
Right, and so we agreed to
Now,
the
and
TIF
we'd
with
have to present the
White
same
Oaks.
evidence on White Oaks.
But my understanding is White Oaks has also been extended, correct?
My understanding is
So
that
if this-
is the same.
Case, which seems to extend primarily from Charles Point, it would also impact the extension for White Oaks, correct?
It very well.
And then the same thing, we would have to then go
Very
through
well could.
and decide whether or not we agreed to that extension as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Dean, do we have a contract?
We have a memorandum of understanding, and we have all of the information that was based on.
But we don't actually have a contract.
Well, I would suggest to you that's the issue in the lawsuits. And we have argued there is a contract. There's a series of resolutions, ordinances, memorandum of understanding. There's a March 28, 2005 resolution that was adopted by this council, which outlines terms, and it is signed by the city. It was requested that consent be given in exchange for the deal, basically, at that time, and the city voted on it, approved it at that time. So it's not just one document, Mayor. There's a series of presentations, annexation request. There was an annexation process that went through as part of the deal process. So it's a kind of a series of events that give rise to what we would argue is the contract.
As opposed to one document.
Yeah, it'd be beautiful if it was just one simple contract.
Yeah, it would make things a lot easier.
Make it much simpler, yes.
And help me understand the scope of the 23 amendment. It doesn't impact all TIFs, only TIFs that were already in existence as of the time of COVID?
Correct. Prior to, I think it was December 31, 2020, only applies to, those are the only TIFs that are allowed to ask for a 15-year extension.
So the only places that this could affect Bridgeport are at White Oaks and Charles Point. Am I
I
understanding
believe
that
that would be
correctly?
correct.
This may be,
There's a TIF at the airport.
and it existed pre-20?
I'd have to go back and check the date. I don't remember those dates.
Okay. But it hasn't been extended? It hasn't received a 15-year extension? Now, this may be, I don't know, out of the ordinary, but, and they may not be able to because of the lawsuit, but I'd really like discussion. And since you gentlemen are here, if there's anything that you would say to add to this from your perspective that you don't think would compromise your side of the suit, because I wouldn't ask you to do that, but I'd love to hear both sides of the story, so to speak.
Would,
We'd love to, but we're not represented right now.
I understand that.
We definitely have comments. We may disagree with the gentleman, but
Fully understand, but I just, since you were here,
yeah, I don't think that would be appropriate in an open meeting at this time. But a good question.
no.
I had a few questions. Thank you for coming. Make sure I get this right. You had said in your statement that the first lawsuit was filed constitutionally, right? And then the statute of limitations was running up for Genesis, so then they filed a lawsuit against the city. You kind of mentioned in the fact that that lawsuit wasn't going anywhere with the constitutional thing. You had gotten some money from the city to start looking into it, investigating it. But when that lawsuit came to, is that what prompted everyone to get back on board with this? I want to make sure I'm clear on the fact that, was it because they filed a lawsuit against the city that you said, representing the city, hey, now we have to ramp this up?
Well, that was a decision the council made. My understanding, it was that prior to that suit being filed, our suit that we were contemplating we could file was not did not have majority support of the council and was not going to be filed. And my instructions were to stand down. And then after the lawsuit was filed, and at which point obviously you had to appear and defend that lawsuit, I was told we might as well get back and re-engaged. And there were issues that we had raised, constitutional legal issues that weren't raised in the federal case. So if we're going to bother litigating the issue, it was like you don't want to litigate and get half of it decided and leave these other issues hanging out there unanswered. So we raised additional constitutional issues that were not raised in the federal case, and they also were involved in the Economic Development Authority, who was not a party in the federal case. So yeah, the decision was made, I was instructed anyway at that point, that since a vote had been taken to proceed with defending the lawsuit, and then as part of that also going ahead and filing to get the answers to the other questions we had as to constitutionality in the state court.
Do we have any other municipalities joining us in this lawsuit, or just Bridgeport?
It's just us. In the case you're the only municipality I know that has raised the issue. I do know, and I only know this from reading a news article, that the mayor of Granville raised the issue in connection with Montague County, but the quote in the paper was, but the legislature said we had to do it, and so they did not pursue or I don't know if they investigated the constitutional or legal issues we did, but they did not file any challenge to the extension, although Mayor at the time indicated, at least impressed, she was opposed to the extension.
I'm just trying to get my head around it. So it's I want to get your opinion, if you can. Do we have a case constitutionally? I mean, what are you arguing?
I can tell you, yes, we would not have filed suit if we did not believe we had a legal basis for the suit. And the economic development then raised the arguments that we didn't have a viable basis for the suits, nor did we have standing. Their biggest argument was the city has no rights whatsoever, that only the state can dictate to you and everything and basically cram it down your throat. You can't do anything about it. And the Kanawha County Circuit Court ruled in our favor and said that's not right. He believes we did have a case and a basis to proceed to trial.
It makes sense, for the state to come in and say this is what you have to do, and then the local government has no control. And I get where all this thing is kind of going. The contract issue. Did the city and Genesis or Charles Point sign an agreement? Are you stating that the contract is basically conversations?
It's more than conversations. There was a series of written presentations. You'll recall the county commission also, they're the one that actually created the district, right? So a lot of presentations were made to the county as well as to the city as to what exactly was going to be, very detailed. I mean, the documents are this thick, presentation documents, what was going to be done and what they wanted from the city in exchange for that. So there are documents specifically saying, and this is what we need the city to do. We need you to annex this land. We need you to agree to allow the TIF district to exist within your municipal limits. You will, undertaking this TIF district, you also will immediately become responsible for all city services within the 1,000 acres or so of the TIF district, which you will have to do for the 30 years, but essentially you will be providing all the city services. So there are numerous documents that outline what they wanted and needed from the city, and the city agreed to that. And the underlying basis for the city, in its interest, it was interested in supporting Charles Point District with the expectation that at the end of 30 years, you would receive the substantial revenues that would flow from the increased appraised value of the property. As you can imagine, the appraised value of the property in 2003 was, I think, $1,300,000. Under the schedules presented by that are part of these documents, they show a schedule proposed of what they thought the assessed value and appraised value of the property would be over the 30 years. At the end of 30 years, it was going to be over $2 billion in property value, which you would have then assessed and collected tax on. And so you can imagine the value of the property obviously increased substantially with all the development going on up there. And so the carrot on the end of the stick supposedly is that you will get much greater revenues at the end. And in the meantime, you've helped the county and the area with economic development at Charles Point.
When the state legislature allowed them to renew the TIFs for 15 years, I want to make sure I get this right. Did they put a provision in there for the cities to be able to approve it?
No, it was in the statute. The 2023 amendments removed the requirement that the city must consent.
I got a lot of questions. I apologize, but I really believe this is one of the biggest issues as I look in this camera for Bridgeport. It's huge. It's massive. It doesn't seem that way, and it seems complicated, but I think this is a major issue for our city. In 2005, the city of Bridgeport and Charles Point got together and both spent equal amount of money, up to $15,000, to do an economic impact analysis of the thing. In here it says $41 million is what the estimate was in 2005. And this is kind of right when things were getting going, right? At $41,000 through issues of B&O tax, other taxes, property tax. That's kind of what they were estimating. Is that that's what was come up with in 2005?
I recall there was an economic impact analysis about this. It was to both look at the pros and the cons and impact employment gains that could occur with the development, the positives, and then what the expectations would be going forward as to what the revenues to the city would be ultimately at the end of the 30 years.
And I understand that the argument is, what is the revenue? I know that the county, Harrison County, has come to the city and said, can you show us the benefit of the TIF? Is there any money coming in? And that's kind of where we always seem to not know what that number is. We hear numbers like 23 million. We hear the levy at 2.5 million. is what's happening at Charles Point benefiting the city financially? So much so that we don't need to squabble about, $75,000 or $80,000 a year. Because when you go back and you talk about things like the initial agreement or the memorandum, it talks about these things. It says things that, I got this and I kind of read it. I mean, this was like a great marriage made in heaven back in 2001, right? Bridgeport upon completion of such annex shall apply and receive expanded grants for financial assistance to be provided infrastructure, including roads, water, sewer, lighting, and other facilities that Bridgeport is authorized to construct. We've already, in 2000, when they said we want to do this $96 million project, we said yes. And then it's a lot of fluff here, but it makes you feel cozy and warm that there was such a great relationship, right? Bridgeport and the owners will work together to create alternative means for raising capital and will benefit both Bridgeport and the owners, other than current business and occupation tax structure. Bridgeport and the owners shall cooperate fully to their mutual best interest for successful development of Charles Point. Dean, you signed this. I don't have your signature here, but this was very truly yours, Dean Ramsey. And then we just got off the boat, didn't we? I mean, and now, as Mark was saying, it just got messy. And I'm wondering if it got messy with the lawsuit about CityNet. And I like what you said, Mark. We didn't do well there. We didn't favor well. And the lawsuit, actually, the judge said, I don't know the specifics of the lawsuit. But the judge says, sorry, give me a minute. All this suggests that Bridgeport had arbitrary and conspicuous motives of bringing a condemnation case. We lost. We didn't lose that lawsuit, but we had to settle. Bridgeport's conduct in bringing this action was arbitrary and conspicuous. I had to look that up. It means unpredictable, irrational, and done in bad faith. And my question is are we doing that again? Are we doing that again? And what would be the effects of this? Meaning the fact that, what's the bad side? Let's say that we continue this lawsuit and we win or we lose. Is there a bad side?
Well, a bad side would be...
Like for example, what happens to all the other tips in our state?
If they had consent and the bondholders and everybody agreed to it, I can't offer an opinion on how they might be impacted without knowing the facts and circumstances of those cases. I would say you're only talking about TIFs before a certain time period that this 15-year extension applies to. So the losing would be if it was upheld that the 2023 amendments were constitutional, you had 45 years then of a bond where you do not receive any increase. So the downside would be you'd have 15 initial years, the most profitable years, you will, so to speak, at the end of the development. If you had 30 years development, the highest assessed value is going to be at the end. So the highest revenues are going to be assessed values at the end of the project. So the last 15 years, when it's at the highest appraised value, you would be losing. So the loss would be the revenues for 15 years, while you still are obligated to provide all essential city services.
I don't know. I feel like that's misleading. That's loss. The arguments against this say there's a loss when there's really no proof that there is a loss. We know there's $2.5 million in the levy. We know we're collecting sales tax. We know money's coming in from it. We've never, as a city, as I recall, have ever done a study to say what is the benefit of Charles Point that is half of our city. What's the benefit of them being in our city? We know that the Harrison County Commissioners asked for that. They've asked and said, do a report, see what the benefit is, see what the numbers are. Let's get some real numbers, because these numbers are the things that we keep arguing about, and whether or not we can afford to put lights in our light poles and remove snow on a road. I want to get to, for the people out there that's watching this, the city, we're not suing Charles Point. They're suing us, but we're suing the state of West Virginia, the Department of Economic Development. Yeah. They're not too happy about this.
I can't speak to whether they're happy or not. I know that they want to get a ruling.
Yeah. And to go back to Chris's question, why we have another TIF, White Oaks. Why are we isolating one TIF district versus another one? When we do know that White Oaks TIF was supposed to be for commercial, and now it's residential. It wasn't about, TIFs aren't about relocating businesses, right? It wasn't like you can get TIF benefits and take a business out of Clarksburg and put it into the TIF district. We did that twice at White Oaks. It's not a relocation thing. It's to help areas that are suffering, to build something up. But I'm just curious why we I would think maybe we would want to get more municipalities and localities on board. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like more people to say, hey, this is wrong. Why is no one else doing that?
Well, I haven't researched whether any other municipalities have been requested or have a 15-year extension request made to them. I do know that Mon County has asked to intervene in the case in Kanawha County Circuit Court. And they have counsel that has made an appearance and wants to intervene in that case, so their voice can be heard. But that's the only other entity other than Harrison County and Mon County that I have heard have an interest in the issue. And the one in Mon County is obviously the one that's a subject of litigation on other grounds up in Montague County. So in other words, I don't know if there's any other city or municipalities that are in this situation.
Do you think it's fair that the city of Bridgeport picks this TIF over that TIF?
You're asking me a policy question.
Right.
That's really your domain more than mine. Mine is purely legal.
Are we picking one TIF over another? I don't think we're picking one TIF over another. It just happens to be one entity that happens to be suing us, so they get more of the attention. Like you said, our lawsuit isn't against one area or the other. It's against this law. And you talk about where this goes sideways. I don't know the history with the internet and all that kind of stuff. But from my standpoint, where this goes sideways is a state law that's ridiculous, that takes our voice out of it, that needs to be addressed, and a county commission that completely ignored us. That's ridiculous. I mean, I know you're shaking your head, but obviously we were against it, and they voted anyways without getting our input on it. And that's how I see it from reading in the paper and Connect Bridgeport and that sort of thing. So to me, those questions do need to be raised. And I had somebody who tried to educate me on this, and I'm a thick-headed guy, and I'm a little slow on it. But I also, what was the phrase, but for? But for these TIFs, this development wouldn't happen. And this is my concern with the TIFs is by extending the whole TIF district, did we extend it to areas that are going to be developed anyways? That but for no longer applies. I certainly see areas in Charles Point that but for it's not going to happen. And so there's an element where I'm all for extension of the 15-year TIF for certain areas, but maybe not all of it. But again, I'm open to hear discussions from both sides so I can get better educated on this. So I think there's a lot of issues that do need to be resolved through this that I'd like to get more. Now, whether or not the lawsuit is the best way to go about doing that or not, I don't know, but I definitely think there's some things that need to be addressed here. And the fact that our voice was taken out of it is ridiculous.
Let me call timeout just for 1 second here. I think we've moved from we've moved from 10 to 11. So let's officially do that just for housekeeping. Mr. Miller, appreciate your report. I hope we continue to have this discussion under the next item. But let's move to from item 10 to item 11, 11.1 and 11.2. We can pick back up if anybody has anything else to discuss.
So I'd like to pick up on something, one of the notes I had written down that Jason came up with. I appreciate, Jamie, when you had me in there and you could take me through some of those financials. But as we talked about there, you could only present some of those financials because it's what you knew. But there's another side of that. Can we get a study that shows how much we are actually generating specifically from White Oaks and Charles Point? And so we can do that comparison of what are we quote unquote giving up versus what are we gaining, what's coming in right now, because we are still generating taxes. We're generating taxes on the undeveloped value of all that property, plus the areas that have already been developed. We're bringing in taxes from different sources, and I can't speak intelligently to the right ones, but I do know we are bringing in taxes, so there's still a current benefit within those TIF districts. But there's also a cost for us to go care for some of those areas. Do we have our own internal numbers? Can we at least, if we don't, can we get these internal numbers so that we can make a more educated decision about what's going on? Because I don't feel like I'm in a position right now to do
I think that's
that.
wise, because, you know, you hear, if you talk to different people about this, you hear different numbers. And I think if we went in our books, and our books are now extremely transparent, thanks to the mayor, and start putting it in there and saying, what are we actually bringing in revenue from the benefit of having a TIF district in our area? And not to belabor this, but, you know, Charles Point's more than just the development of TIFs. This is a group of guys that, you know, the farmers market, never paid a dime. They hosted it there for free. If you go to Connect Bridgeport, you know, the fireworks are always donated. The conference center, they donated that land to Bridgeport. That's for the conference center. So we're not talking about an organization that's out to get a bunch of stuff. We're talking about an organization that's consistently in the news, in our community, that's serving our people. And that's gotta mean something.
Anything else? Kind of in that spirit, you know, I just wish that there was, and this is discussion with the other council members, since we're under the other option, that we can find some common ground. You know, I think if you get off Jerry Dove and you look to the right or you look to the left, you drive down the road to the airport, these TIFs have been good for our city. And Thrasher has been a great partner. Corton has been a great partner. The Airport Authority, we've got a lot of good going on. And in my role in my employment, you know, I spend a lot of time in city halls throughout the state and other states, and we're the envy. I'm in the middle of a conference over in Maryland now. I drove tonight to be here, and I'm going to drive back. And when I mentioned Bridgeport, you know, they talk about the rec complex, the CityNet Center, and, you know, they talk about how well things are going here. My hopes is that we can all come together and you know, tonight I've spurred some ideas of maybe that I would propose to the council. Maybe we hire a CPA firm to give us that information so we know what is coming in from Charles Point, what the potential miss is.
Can't we do that in-house? I mean, the county should be.
Sharon could do it in-house, and if she can, I'm sure she's capable, but why hasn't that been done yet?
The county should be able to give us the numbers of what we're generating, shouldn't they? And then Public Works or whoever, we can get some ideas of rough estimates of how much this is gonna cost before we spend money on another outside agency.
Well,
at least see what we can get.
And I agree with you, and I you know, that was just a quick, I guess, a thought that I made without putting a lot of time into it. But I think at some point, and if I believe that our personnel or our finance director can do that. I'm sure she has the skills. I'm just wondering why it hasn't been done yet. You know, we're at this point in the middle of lawsuits, and I just got to go back to my initial thought. I just hope that there's some way that we can resolve this matter with our partners. They've been good partners. I think back when I was very young, when the FBI wanted to come here, and I believe Carl Furby was the mayor. Dean, you would know that. And somehow or another, the order came out of D.C. that the FBI facility is going to go in the city of Clarksburg. Didn't touch it. They had to do a shoestring annexation over the hill and through the creek. Roger, you remember that. Hank, I'm sorry. You remember that. And I heard at the 11th hour, the mayor and the council had to make a decision. Do we give that up to Clarksburg? Because what they were going to lose is a construction tax and maybe a little B&O tax inside. And the decision was made, okay, we'll give that up to Clarksburg, but we're going to take everything outside. And that was pretty much the gentleman's agreement, if I remember history correct, Dean.
A little more than a gentleman's agreement.
It was a hard, fast agreement, right?
Yeah, they got 990 acres and we got 990 acres.
Yeah. So look what we got. I mean, you look at the hospital, UHC, you look at White Oaks, you look at Charles Point. Everything is a risk, and we all know that we're not in financial trouble here in our city. we're blessed. And I think we resolve this, we assist. In fact, there's a resolution from 2005, and just a part of it as the resolution. It says, "Now therefore being it resolved by the City Council of the City of Bridgeport as follows. The mayor and the city manager of the city are hereby authorized and directed to take such actions as they shall deem appropriate in assisting and supporting the development." And that's what I'm doing tonight. I'm going to support all of our developments. I think the future growth and what's potential in all of our TIF districts and outside of our TIF districts is envied by all of the state. And I just hope we can all come together and find a resolution without further lawsuits, without further legal action. And I hope that maybe we can have discussions in that area. Anything else?
So what are the options in terms of initiating some negotiations parallel to the litigation? Open discussion between the parties.
Dean, do you want to address that, or is that something that we should talk about in an executive session?
Well, generally, no matter what the city says, it's either constitutional or it's not constitutional. And that's, and if the city withdraws, there's no answer to that question. And I think that the development office wants a decision one way or the other. Is that correct, Tim?
They have requested an expedited processing of the case in Kanawha County, so I would take that as yes, they're interested in getting an answer as well.
So I'm interested in that answer as well, because again, I think I've stated it very clearly that I think the law is, even if it's not constitutional, it's flat stupid. So I'd love that resolution, but at the same time, I hate the fact that we're bearing the whole cost for the state on this. Daggone, if they want an answer, they can help pay for this thing. We're not going to get a single county to jump in on this lawsuit because it benefits them. They can make these decisions without a municipality. So we've got to find some other municipality to come on board. But why would they do that when we're already paying for it? So that's the bigger issue. They'd be crazy to come on board now, wouldn't they? Bridgeport's going to pay for it. Heck with it.
Then could we do one and not the other? I mean, it seems to me, and as a layperson, I would say, it would seem to me, and I don't want to what if, but what if the federal case we prevail, or the plaintiff prevails, and in the state case we lose, then we've just got more, we're kicking this can further and further down the road, which hurts our developers, which hurts our city. And it would just make sense to me, since we're the defendants in the federal case, we can't drop it. Could we not get out of the state case, see what the federal case, where it takes us, and in the meantime, hopefully support as best we can, the development not only at Charles Point and at White Oaks, but all over the city. We've got a lot going on here, a lot we should all be very proud of.
Or is there another way for this constitutional question to be answered?
I had asked Tim, and this may take some research and questions, whether or not the ruling by a federal court on state law was binding. In other words, can a federal court rule that on anything except the federal Constitution and federal law, and if so, is that then binding insofar as state law is concerned, if the ruling is by the federal court?
The federal court can make the ruling on the federal Constitution, and it would be binding. Of course, we haven't asserted a federal claim in the state claim, so that would be for what it's worth. The federal court could make a ruling on its interpretation of the West Virginia Constitution, but ultimately the question of what the West Virginia Constitution means is for the West Virginia Supreme Court of Appeals, because it's purely a state law question.
So again, is there another way for that question to be answered outside of our lawsuit?
Well, courts don't give advisory opinions is the old mantra. They don't give you a what if situation. They require case and controversy as to actual controversy. We've actually also raised several constitutional reasons, state constitutional reasons, that aren't in the federal court case. So even if you got the federal court ruling and it was favorable to Charles Point, there would still be issues hanging of some uncertainty with respect to the state constitution. And you all are all business people, and you all know business likes certainty. They like to know what the rules of the game are rather than guess. So, just in my viewpoint and trying to answer Dean's question, I have an issued a legal opinion on this, except that I do know in federal cases what they call sitting on diversity, where there are diverse jurisdictions where you have citizens from different states, you're in federal court, but you're applying state law. The case law on that is pretty clear, that a federal court in applying state law can give its opinion on what they think the state Supreme Court would do. But ultimately, they could be wrong, and the state Supreme Court's the final arbiter on those issues of what the state law is. If that answers your question, Dean.
Well, the other concern that I would have is that there's no real statute of limitations on a constitutional question.
That's correct.
So anytime during this period, and this is a question I also raised, is could a citizen taxpayer challenge the constitutionality of the extension? If that's the case, if Bridgeport just said, we're out of here, we're not going to pay anymore, could the same issues on constitutional question be raised by a taxpayer group? And I don't know the answer to that.
That, of course, wouldn't be in our privy. That would be up between the taxpayer and
No,
the
but
attorney.
it would have the effect of getting a constitutional ruling on
Right.
by citizens group.
And it would still cause the turmoil that businesses don't want to see and limit.
That's
Investment.
You go through the same thing. And keep in mind, we're simply asking the court to tell us what the law is. Is
So
that,
in the
and
meantime-
I don't want to jump on, Tim's presentation, but it is important to remember both of these actions are declaratory judgment actions. Just to say, what is the law? Is that correct, Tim?
That's correct.
So another ignorant question though. So as I read the newspaper on some of these other actions, and I don't remember if it had to do with vaccination exemptions or religious exemptions or that kind of stuff, but I've read some things where lower courts have posed the question directly to the Supreme Court to get an answer on certain things. Can that not happen here?
That was the certified question process I was referring to earlier.
Okay.
The vaccination case right now is pending before a circuit court judge in West Virginia. They have to make a ruling first. They say, this is what I think the law is. And then you can ask the upper court, say, but I could be wrong, you tell us. You give us the ultimate answer. And by expediting and certifying it, there's also some other procedural things called writs of prohibition and other procedural mechanisms that, yes, you could do that.
How long could that take? Would that be faster than this
No,
10, 12 months?
it's the same process. It's just a question of what
Gotta
you're
love
asking.
expedition in the judicial world.
Well, yeah, the law moves at its own pace, as you all well know.
Wheels of justice move slow.
Yeah, correct.
But I think what our dilemma, Mr. Miller, is here that I think it's hurting future development or some things with the developers. As long as this is hung up here, the sooner it's over, the better. And I think everybody wants to know, the answer at the end of the day.
Yeah, the bondholders and everybody else
I think we need
that are ultimately sitting out there.
So we
with lots of
appreciate your
skin in the
efforts
game.
in expediting it. Certainly, I appreciate you coming here tonight.
Let me ask you a question. Let's say that we wanted to do a study on the benefits of the TIFs in our city. Is this at a place where we could stop the lawsuit, suspend it, and say until this study is done, we want to look at this?
You could ask.
That would just
probably
belabor.
not likely that a court is going to want to stay it.
Okay.
But we wouldn't want
At
to do
this
that because it's
stage.
just going to take even longer. Either we go or don't go. And it probably costs more money, but more importantly, it's going to cost more time, which is more uncertainty for the businesses.
But yes, you could do a study. I mean, you're talking about economics of the risk benefits. Really, I think what you're asking is what's the risk and benefits. Benefits, the mayor's pointed out, obviously, some of the benefits. The risks to the city really are financial. And so those are numbers that can be generated. You can take the assessed value, what's projected for year 30 and projected for each year thereafter, and calculate the city's, how much you would receive in return under those assessed values. That could be done. We've kind of done it on an back of the envelope basis. It's substantial, but I haven't done a spreadsheet as an accountant would do that would figure it out. But you're talking substantial dollars for years 30 through 45. So that can be quantified, Councilman. And then you would have to then, as a policy issue, have to weigh the risks, the benefits, versus your obligations for another 15 years of all the city services. You could quantify that, I'm assuming, in some way. You're probably going to have to pave streets in a 45-year period. You're going to be paving streets, 4 or 5 times probably. You're going to be doing lighting, sewer, other maintenance. You could quantify those under assumptions. You can make assumptions about that, and I'm sure the city probably has good experience on how much it costs to pave roads and replace sewers and do things like that. And
So
then,
Tim, a follow-up question.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned the word back of the envelope, substantial calculation. You probably had some data that helped you do that calculation. Have you shared that with the mayor, or have you shared that number? Does council have that number? Because I don't know. I don't think I have that number.
I don't know that the council has that number. City attorney and I have talked generally about it. We haven't bothered quantifying because we're not asking for damages.
Right.
So I've kind of done it to say one of the tests for a law impairing unconstitutional law impairing the obligation of contracts is it has to be substantial impairment. That issue's been raised by Genesis that it's not substantial. That issue will be litigated, but I mean you're talking well into 7 figures money. It's my back of the envelope.
Seven figures over 15 years.
Yeah, you take the
Okay.
whole 15 years cumulative.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Manager, could you get that information or get that study done with the finance director for us?
Yeah, we can start that. Yeah.
If that's good with everybody, I think that'd be a good start. Any other information or questions? No? We avoided going into executive session, which I'm surprised and pleased. Mr. Miller, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Very good report.
Yes, thank you. Our partners from Genesis, thank you. Pastor, thank you. And everybody else for attending tonight. Let's see, I guess we are at council comments. And if we could start down with Ms. Rominger and work our way up, that'd be great.
Yeah, very informative meeting. I would still like to hear from your council as well, honestly, just for total transparency. So, but I appreciate all the information. There's a lot to think about, honestly. So great meeting. I appreciate everybody's comments too.
I've talked enough.
Mr. Miller, thank you again for making the trip. Great discussion. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you also, Mr. Miller. Appreciate it. Also, good luck to the Bridgeport High School golf team that is competing in the state championships today and tomorrow, or tomorrow and Wednesday.
Practice today and
Tuesday, Wednesday.
Very good.
Mr. Miller, thank you for coming. I've been involved with this TIF since it started in '05, and it's mind-boggling. It's very mind-boggling.
I've seen your name on some of those documents. I assumed it was the same person.
Is that good or bad? But we really appreciate you brought up a lot of good information. Thank you.
I don't really. I think I am concerned about this whole TIF and where this is going. I think it's a big issue for our city moving forward. But I did get Chicken Saturday from the Lions Club. I do it every year, and thumbs up. I mean, my son and I devoured 3 chickens. We loved it. So thank you guys.
Thank you all. I've said enough as well. So I guess we will move for a movement for adjournment.
So moved.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Ayes have it, meeting adjourned. Did I miss something, Mrs. Skinny?
We did that earlier.
We moved around a little bit on you. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I didn't want to make a big deal.
He said you worked together. Just know we're trying to do right. And if we can, for both. And we have a lot of stress issues, you know. I'm talking about the volunteers and everything else, and he wants to get. So just know that we're reasonable. That's all I guess. Well, Jim said you're a great guy too, so you know. You lost one of your partners. So I knew that was going to happen. He's a good kid. You know? See what happens. I don't know what off. Oh, yeah. It's good recognition. I loved your entrance. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's the best part. I know that. Yeah. So,